Welcome to My Career Transformation. Welcome to our series called Leadership Playbook. This is play number 4, which focuses on re-engaging your customers. We need to move beyond the notion of a new normal to an era of growth. Organizations that believe they need to understand and adapt to the market's definition of new normal will quickly become irrelevant. For companies, their customer base has gone missing in action as we fight the COVID-19 fallout. The issue is how to get them back as the world reopens. The world and buyers have clearly changed as people have become more tech savvy out of a work-at-home necessity. We also know that given the unemployment in the United States and the world, luxury and fun purchases are not a real priority right now. So how will you deal with that? To address this, our course provides 6 immediate steps and the detailed how-to actions, templates, and tools to put change in place at the end of the next 20 minutes. Today's situation. Every company must restart and grow, initially based on old goals, approaches, and processes. Yet, while this is going on, leadership should also look at changing critical parts of their operation to adjust to a new post-pandemic normal. Doing either one without the other of these two very different initiatives should not be an option. Also, from a customer perspective, companies will experience a wide range of changes that will cause management to rethink the products, business, markets, and how the company should move forward. Your challenge is to try and make this as transparent to the customer as possible. Finally, organizations that not only survive but thrive will be those who reimagine their business while aggressively growing their share. If you're ready to revitalize your business, it's time to open the Leadership Playbook. Let's dig a little deeper into our next big leadership play called Re-engaging Your Customers to ensure your relevance. This course provides an action plan to drive revenue by determining how your customer values and beliefs may have changed over recent months. Today, every organization needs to re-engage their customers to remain relevant and to grow. We provide you the how-to to drive necessary improvement, sustain change, and the tools, templates, and guides to make it happen. In subsequent courses, we focus on operational reset, which addresses how to stop your cash burn and leverage your virtual workforce. In how to mobilize your entire workforce, we focus on how to accelerate business improvement. How to rethink your strategy provides action so you can update your 2020 strategy to account for all the change around us. And finally, how to reestablish employee commitment so you can engage and lead productive people. If you've missed any of the other courses, check them out at your convenience. Each course in the Leadership Playbook builds on the previous and creates a framework for you to implement change. Unfortunately, some have forgotten the basics of customer interaction. The foundation of customer satisfaction is giving the customer what they want, when they want it, and how they want it, even if they don't know they need it. This often gets lost in the rush to get work done and to handle interactions as quickly as possible. Speed is good for measuring performance, but not for building solid customer relations, especially when it causes impersonal interactions. Also, the way an employee feels about the company or their boss is reflected in the way they deal with customers. Check how customers want to interact with your company and then create those capabilities, but make certain any capability works and is easy to use. Questions you should be asking now to engage with your customers. First, what's happening to my customer base and how is it changing? Next, are my products still relevant and is there still a demand? Third, how do my customers want to interact with us? Also, is the company's offshore call center still acceptable by our customers? Next, does the company need to rethink its customer service approach? Also, how can the company re-engage with past customers and grow sales in the next quarter? And finally, do we need to change our approach to obtaining and retaining customers? Let's explore 6 actions to take when re-engaging your customers. First is to redefine your target market. Over the last several months, customer values have shifted. You need to understand to what degree your products and services are affected by these changes. Next, realign your customer profile for each product line to ensure relevance in your target market spaces. Reestablish your positioning. Given the global trauma, your customer base may change or even evaporate. You need to determine if this applies to your customer and market and to what degree. Wallet share. Given the global changes, do you know exactly how you fit in today? Not only have customer value propositions shifted, but so have buying channels. For example, the shift to online, as well as a move away from luxury to what is perceived as more necessary items. You need to consider how to retain and grow your market share. Next is to improve how you interact with your customers digitally to maintain relevance and desirability. Virtual shopping has jumped significantly over the last several months. This trend will continue. How will your organization respond? And finally, it's critical that you reinforce across your entire organization that the customer is everybody's job number one. As the world emerges and finds a new normal, it's important that your organization confirms the value your products bring to the customers. The goal is to better understand your customers and determine if and how their values are changing. The intent is to avoid wasting time and money going in an unproductive direction and ensuring that your products and services are relevant today. In order to achieve this, begin by confirming your customer value proposition is in fact correct, and do that immediately. You need to understand clearly what has shifted. Second, value is mostly perceptual and up to the opinion of the customer. You need to ensure that your products or services are gaining in value in your customer segment. Next, identify what you can do to tie more closely to the specific values of your customer and become or possibly stay at a greater value level than your competition. Determine actions to be taken to strengthen what the customer values in the next 30 days. And then finally, establish a team to look at these issues and return with an answer in potentially as short as 2 weeks so that action can be taken. Template, how customers value you. In the first step, we've identified a classic customer journey. It begins with awareness of you and your products or services, the value assessment the customer makes with regards to your offering, selection to actually purchase the product, the purchase itself, usage, any support after initial usage, and of course, repurchase. With this classic journey, it's important to understand where are the value points along this continuum or this journey that the customer values or does not value the most, and in fact, also those that they don't like whatsoever. Consider using the table in step 2 to capture the value element, the importance, not importance, or do the customer really not like whatever that value element is? Is it new, the same? Is it somehow tweaked or different from what things were before the pandemic? What might need to change to make that value element be perceived to be higher by the customer? What is the improvement that the customer will perceive? And finally, what is the cost for us to put that in place? The final step is to determine whether or not we should implement these changes. Begin by determining which customer experience changes add sufficient value to the customer at an acceptable cost to our organization. This analysis should be based on the cost of the new customer acquisition, customer retention, repeat purchases, cross-selling, the entire customer experience. Questions that should be asked. What value do your products bring the customer today? For each product or service, can you list the specific aspects of interaction the customers value the most? Is it low cost? Is it the buying experience? Is it online or face-to-face in a mall? What are the main components of the customer buying journey your customers love? The same for the aspects they hate. Do you know what they are? And what are you doing about it? How is the customer perception of value changing due to the pandemic? How will you impact current interactions and the things customers like? And finally, do you have customer journey models, and are they aligned to each interaction point? Finally, are you really in touch with your customer and how the different interactions at points attract or discourage customers? Realign your customer profiles for each product line. The goal is to select the customer profile and market with the highest probability of creating a lucrative relationship. The intent is to focus attention on the right customers and the right geographies so re-engagement efforts can be targeted for maximum effect. In order to achieve this, begin by determining what has changed in your traditional marketplace and customer base. Ask the question, has the customer profile changed? Next, examine the market analysis for what today is the value proposition of your products versus what it was before the crisis. Will you need to modify your product to improve its value to the customer? And will that differ in different geographies? And finally, working with your leadership, which includes finance, sales, marketing, and production, determine the new target customer and potentially any changes to what the product line needs to look like. Use this time in history and the associated shifts to a new normal as an opportunity to rethink what you offer customers and how you interact with them. Customers favor organizations that respond and anticipate their needs, especially when those needs and values change. The illustration balances relative cost of your product or service against how a customer will value your offering. Step back and determine if your strategy is focused on low cost or are you focused on value differentiation. Your challenge is to increase the degree of differentiation from your competition so you can jump ahead and dramatically shift forward with a new definition of differentiation for your market. Use this as a conversation starter with your team as you consider how you should be positioned in the market so you don't just compete but dominate. To learn more about creating differentiation, I invite you to explore the research and work entitled Blue Ocean Shift. Questions that should be asked. Redefine your target market and avoid assumption-based mistakes. First, is your customer base declining with the pandemic and people staying at home? Is there an opportunity to increase sales with an expanded use of improved internet capabilities? What assumptions have been used to create your 2020 company strategy and business plan? Is it still valid? What needs to change? And what is the impact on the business operations and investment projects from a strategic perspective? How has the pandemic-related changes affected your customers, and what have you done to adjust and gain customer loyalty? Have you looked into how to re-engage with customers you lost? Have you looked into what you may do to attract new customers by pulling them from your current competition? If you gain new customers, can you handle the additional workload? And finally, what are the plans in place to increase staff as customers return? Reestablish. Following the global trauma, your customer base may change or even evaporate. So the goal is to confirm that your target customer should continue to be your focus or consider whether or not it should change. The intent is to recognize that this is a key issue that should not be taken for granted. Who is your customer, and do they want what you have to sell? In order to achieve this, we suggest you do not assume that those who were your customer will still be in the future. People will be moving, and some will build other relationships with other companies. Some will be price sensitive, and others will now focus on service or ambiance. With your customer target redefined, it may be a good time to reassess your target customer base believes is important and what will they pay for. It may have changed. Decide if the customer base is still correct. To remain competitive today, what do you need to change in your business models and what do you expect to get from the changes? And finally, can you make the changes in time to retain the customer base? Customer value and profit. The balancing act. We wanted to include a classic value proposition or value map for you to consider. This one, of course, is for Starbucks. Across the top is a narrative that defines the various value statements or attributes on the bottom and compares Starbucks to their competition. As we all know, Starbucks created a market around fashion, selection, ambience, location, and service experience, which are all the value propositions located on the right side of this graphic. What's important today is to determine whether or not these value attributes are still pertinent to the customer. A lot has changed over the last several months, and what customers value today may in fact differ from what they valued just 3 months ago. Just because your value proposition made a whole lot of sense not long ago doesn't mean things still hold true. It's important to go back to your value proposition, confirm that it still holds value, and the differentiation that you offer the market is still perceived as valuable. Questions that should be asked. Your customer base may change or evaporate as a result of the pandemic. Is your past customer base still viable for your products or services? They may have been hit hard by the pandemic, and your target customers may have high numbers of people furloughed or fired. Do people still value what you're selling? Do you need to change some aspect of your sale or product use experience to remain relevant? Has the geographical dispersion of your customers changed? Do you need to realign your products with different customer segments? Do you know how customer buying values are changing, and can you keep up with these changes? And finally, can you still reach your customers in the ways you used to, or do you need now to open new channels? Can the company do that? And can it be done quickly at a reasonable cost? Market share, wants and needs, and how do you fit in today? The goal is to maximize the percentage of disposable income that may be available for your products or services. The intent is to ensure that your product lines are needed in the eyes of your customer. People find a way to obtain what they need, but beyond that, optional wants come into play and become secondary. The question is, how can you position your products to rate higher on the needs and want scale and gain a larger portion of available spend? In order to achieve this, begin by assessing the value segments your company's products lead in and those you intend to improve. Ask, what do people in your target customer group spend money on? How has this changed over the last several months? What percentage of their income is spent on each type of item? How do the products you want to sell them rate in this wallet share? Are your products important to them? Consider that as customers pick who to buy from, this is where the value issue is a dominant question. Finally, the restart activities all come down to change. What do you need to change for the company to increase customer engagement and thus business activity? But equally important is the ability to actually effectively make the change. This is where too many companies fail. This is the wallet share checklist. We've created this checklist to ensure that you're clear on the customer current value proposition, ensure that you're relevant, how to identify opportunities to better align your products and services to the customer's new value and needs, and finally challenges you to identify opportunities to increase demand. Please stop the course and review each of these 4 actions. Use this as a jumping off point with your leadership team to begin a dialogue to ensure the value you offer, your relevance to the customer, how to better align with shifting values, and finally, how to better drive revenue by increasing demand. Let's explore how you can improve your digital customer interaction. The goal is to increase your digital footprint and how digital transformation will support the customer experience. The intent is to create alignment between your customer digital expectations and your organization's ability to deliver them. Let's step back. I think it's important to recognize that for the last 20 years, many CIOs have focused on cost reduction and have been tasked with keeping a low-cost technology environment working. Unfortunately, this can hinder your ability to deliver digitally enabled solutions to your customer. In order to overcome this, we suggest beginning with the assessment on the following page to address the following points. First, will the company's current technology capability do what it needs to do and support the changes you're considering to enable the digital experience? Then work with IT to understand and assess constraints and define a program to modernize the infrastructure and support capabilities. Build a realistic plan to evolve your customer-facing digital capabilities from where you are today to where you need to be in order to realistically compete. And finally, ask if this is the time to invest in technology modernization. While other organizations are focused on cutting cost, you have an opportunity to jump ahead. Let's move on to the digital assessment on the next page. Use this digital assessment to understand your current customer-facing digital capabilities, to determine what they should be to create differentiation for your customers, and finally to assess what your competition's digital capabilities are and the implications to your strategy. First, define your digital capability today. Using your customer journey and an updated customer value proposition, begin with the following questions as thought starters with your team. Once completed, move on to defining what your desired digital customer capabilities should be and where the gaps are. Again, use the following to begin your team's dialogue. Next, determine where your competition is and the implications to your business and to your strategy. Use the following as a starting point. Be sure to capture this discussion so that it can be used as a foundation for an investment update and, of course, request to make changes for the organization. And finally, create an investment plan that can be quickly approved and put into action with phased delivery of digital capabilities over the next 12 months. The customer is every employee's job number one. The goal is to maximize a positive experience every customer has as they interact with the company. The intent is to recognize that customers purchase from companies and people they're comfortable with. We'll focus on activities to both help customer re-engagement as well as new customer acquisition. In order to achieve this, we recognize that everyone in every organization is somehow constrained in providing this exceptional customer experience by some aspect of their job. Sometimes it's many things. Begin by identifying and defining these constraints to providing this wow customer experience along with their impact. Next, new problems arise every day someplace in the organization, and it kills the consistency in looking at customer issues and policy implementation. These are dealt with differently by each employee. As a result, this variation in how work is performed hampers efforts to provide a consistent customer experience. Finally, consider establishing a way to recognize and reward how your people interact with customers. The key is to promote an environment where employees feel comfortable in providing the customer with the very best possible experience. This template builds on the earlier customer value template to identify specific changes that you need to make to better align your products and services to new customer values. Follow each step and develop a clear action plan for change. Questions that should be asked. Engaging the customer is every employee's job number one. Is your organization easy to deal with? Is the buying process fun or frustrating? Are customers satisfied with their customer service interactions? Are customers happy with their call center interactions? Do rules cause confusion instead of guidance? Are they overly complicated? What are the obstacles that affect satisfactory interactions with customers? Does everyone know what is expected of them in any customer interaction and how what they do affects the customer experience? And finally, does everyone in the company understand the vision and strategy of the organization and how they personally fit in? Do they understand the differentiation you provide the customer and how their role enables it? No part of any company operates in isolation from other parts. All parts are interconnected. Ensure your people understand how they contribute to the customer experience in both up and downstream effects. So let's tie all of this together. Our 5 leadership plays outline what every leader needs to do today to get things right. We suggest the sooner you access all 5 courses, the better equipped you'll be to take actions necessary to move from surviving to thriving. Not only do each of our leadership plays build on one another to create an integrated plan of action, but we also provide you with specific additional resources to further accelerate your team's and organization's ability to pivot and shift as conditions continue to evolve. Companies, employees, and leaders are all navigating new territory as we seek a new normal. We hope that you'll find each play in the Leadership Playbook not only informative, but actionable. Our courses are all about equipping you with the tools to make change yourself and do it immediately. Also, check out our website. We have additional courses that equip you and your team to make effective changes to your business. Thank you. We've talked about what should be done and how to do it. To build the skills necessary to perform these activities, we suggest that people on your team take the following courses from our training library. The Business Process Analysis course explores how to fundamentally redesign core business processes, what to change, and why. Investment Roadmap determines what is absolutely necessary by creating a project portfolio that makes sense while cutting out low value and misaligned investments. Creating strategic objectives develops understandable and meaningful objectives that align everyone across your organization with your strategy. And finally, Business Process Performance Management focuses on how customer technical sophistication and interaction expectations are increasing as patience with old-style company interactions is decreasing. Company interactions performance must keep pace with these expectations to remain competitive and, of course, relevant.